Welcome to Online Trading Campus and welcome to our OTC Futures course Module 2 Beginner. In lesson 4 now we will discuss rollover. In this lesson we will focus on the rollover process. Before I explain rollover in detail, we have to cover key terminology such as front month, back month and expiration date. Once this is done, we explore the rollover process and everything associated to it. At the end, as usual, I'll do a small summary by putting things together what we have learned in this lesson. So let's get started. Let's cover officially some terms we have already heard in the previous lessons. Front month, also called near or spot month, refers to the nearest expiration date for a futures contract. Front month contracts have an expiration date that is closest to the current date. Given this, they tend to be the most heavily traded and the most liquid futures contracts for a futures market. We most of the times trade the front month. Back month contracts that have later expiration dates than front month contracts are called back month or far month contracts. This is the contract that comes next in the calendar cycle. And then we have rollover. This is where trading activity, so the trading volume, shifts from the front month to the back month. Back month becomes the new front month and the old front month expires. Please note that trading volume moves from front month to back month during the rollover process. Rollover is not the same as expiration date. Rollover is a process that takes place X days before expiration. In the futures market, the transition from an expiring futures contract to a new futures contract is called a rollover. Since futures are derivatives contracts that control an underlying asset, they, like many contracts, have a start and finish date, an expiration date, so to say. Because there's a shelf life to futures markets, you must close your existing positions in the contracts that are close to expiring. If you elect to continue trading that market before the contract expires, you will have to roll over your position, meaning close the expiring position and open a new position which will trade until the next cycle of expiration, usually several months into the future. To someone new to trading futures contract expirations and, more importantly, knowing when to roll over could be confusing. That's because all types of futures contracts do not expire in the same month or at the same time during the month. Each product has its own life cycle, but we will clarify all of that during this module and in the practical application session that follows after this module. Let's look at these two charts. On the left, we have ESU 16, which is the September 2016 S&P 500 contract, and to the right, we have ESZ 16, which is the December 2016 S&P 500 contract. Both are daily charts. Every bar down here represents the daily volume in contracts. As you can see, while ESU 16 was the front month, it had an average daily volume of roughly 1.6 to 1.8 million contracts being traded, compared to ESZ 16, which was the back month at this time that had almost no contracts being traded on a daily basis. Now, the closer expiration comes, you can clearly observe how volume on the September contract is rapidly dropping and at the same time increasing on the December contract. This is where the contracts are being closed, long or shorts, in September and reopened in the December contract because September contract is about to expire. And you can also see that this doesn't happen on one single day only, but on a couple of days before expiration. That is why rollover is not a date, but more like a time window, a process where traders are rolling over to the back month. So again, what is the front month? The contract with expiration date closest to today's date. The contract with the shortest lifetime basically. Normally front month has the highest volume and is trading most actively. One exception, during rollover. Now the back month is the contract month located immediately after the front month. Volume is usually lower than the front month. Again, one exception, during rollover. As you can see, the volume increases sharply on the back month just a few days before the front month expires. Now, once the back month has more volume, the back month automatically becomes the new front month and the previous front month expires. So this is a screenshot of the radar screen from TradeStation, where you can build your own symbol watch list. I will show you how to set up your own radar screen in the practical application session at the end of module 2, so stay tuned for that. Here I listed on top the Euro unadjusted continuous contract, and below I listed all active contracts starting with the front month. If you look at the daily volume, you can see that the unadjusted continuous contract has the same volume as the Euro June contract. When you plot a contract month that has the same daily volume than the unadjusted continuous chart, then you automatically know that you plotted the front month, because the unadjusted continuous chart in its endless life cycle always uses the contract month with the highest volume. If you look at the back month, which is the September contract, you can clearly see that the volume is significantly lower. So low that you're basically not able to trade it. And if you continue to plot more contracts that are available, you can also see that the volume on these contracts is basically non-existent. Bottom line, it becomes self-explanatory which of these contracts to trade once you look at all available ones and include daily volume as a decision-making tool. In your radar screen, you can also show expiration date and LTD, which is the abbreviation for last trading day for each available contract. Expiration date and LTD is exactly the same, you can plot either or. On that date, the contract expires and is no longer tradable, so you have to roll over before that date. Again, I want to stress that rollover is not the same as expiration date. Expiration date is a fixed date and rollover is a process that takes place a couple of days before expiry. So let's assume you're trading the Euro June contract ECM17, and you know, according to your radar screen, that the June contract expires on the 19th of June, and before that date you have to roll over to the September contract, which would be ECU17. So let's assume ECH17 is the front month. It's the Euro March contract. You can see that the volume drops significantly 3 days before expiration. How do you know that rollover starts approximately 3 days before contract expiration? On the unadjusted continuous chart, right? At EC equals 103xN. The 03 tells you when rollover starts and when the volume shifts from the front month to the back month. So if you want to stay in the trade, you have to roll over to the back month ECM17, which is the June contract, and you also can see how in this 3 days window the volume on the back month is picking up. Now on the 13th of March, the Euro March contract expires and becomes untradeable, and the back month ECM17 becomes officially the new front month. So how to roll over from the front month to the back month? That is super simple. If you're long the front month, you sell to close front month and buy to open back month. And if you're short the front month, you buy to close front month and sell to open back month. In our Euro example, let's assume you are long Euro, you sell contract H to close the position and you buy contract M to open a new position. Let's talk about one more important topic, which are rollover gaps. Gaps are usually defined as a strong imbalance of supply or demand on a market open, causing price to open above or below the previous day's price. At some point in the future, prices normally, but not always, return back to the origin of these gaps and close them. This is what we refer to as gap fill. It is at this point that a lot of professional traders are waiting to take positions in the direction of the gap from the past. However, a rollover gap is not the same as a normal gap. The normal or natural gaps occur because of a news event, for instance, that occurred while the markets may have been closed, or perhaps a series of technical trading systems that put a lot of buy orders or sell orders on the open. These are called market on open orders. Whatever the reason for the gap is, it was caused by excessive imbalance of supply and demand orders on the open. The rollover gaps though, these will only be seen on unadjusted continuous futures charts. These gaps tend to be filled just like any other gap But here's the difference. They were not created by a supply or demand imbalance like our natural gaps were. So when price comes back to these gaps, we do not have true supply or demand zones. My observation is that while these gaps do not get filled as frequently as a natural gap does, they also get exceeded in price enough to stop out the majority of traders who try and trade these like a natural gap. Since this gap was not created from a supply and demand imbalance, it was simply a function of one contract expiring and the TradeStation software begins to plot the new contract price on the same chart. You can see that very clearly on that example. On NGM17, which is the 2017 natural gas June contract, you had a price of 3.234 at the first day of rollover. So NGM17 rolls over to NGN17, which is the July contract, and here the price is 3.328. So your unadjusted continuous chart is showing you the gap from 3.234 to 3.328 because this is when rollover started and the majority of the volume shifted from NGM17 to NGN17. Bottom line, rollover gaps are only visible on an unadjusted continuous contract. Rollover gaps are the result of two consecutive contracts flowing into the same chart with different expiration dates. The latest contract may trade above or below the price of the previous contract. Let's summarize everything with the ultimate question for this lesson. When do I switch from front month to back month with my trading? The decision should be based on trading volume. The day on which the back month has a higher trading volume than the front month, we start to trade the back month. So please note, once this happens, the symbol obviously changes and also the values may change as well, as we have seen in the previous natural gas example. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we will cover the life cycle characteristics of the different futures markets and explore one more important day that we have to be aware of as futures traders, the first notice day. So stay tuned for lesson 5 of module 2.